Hey everyone, this week I'm going to discuss Reader's Advisory Services, selection tools, and the 6 realistic fiction titles on the required reading list. The topic for this vidcast is Reader's Advisory, and that, as you probably learned from other courses, is your skill at helping a student or teen patron find the right book at the right time. It should be student or patron driven, and you should be meeting the needs of your patrons. I say this because I've heard of a school librarian who had a collection of over 100 cookbooks in her high school, and it turns out the librarian was a gourmet cook. So what that librarian was actually doing was building a collection around her needs and not the needs of her teen patrons. You always need to be aware of what the teens themselves want. What are their recreational needs? What is it that they like to read? What is it, if you're in a school setting, that is being taught in the curriculum? What are the informational needs that the teachers are telling you for materials to support the curriculum? You should be knowledgeable about all of these resources. And if you don't know where to go get them, which is why the review source worksheet is hopefully going to be helpful to you. Be non-judgmental about what teens want to read. We all bring our own lens to the world of young adult literature. We all have different backgrounds. We were raised differently. We have different religious and political beliefs. But you need to leave that at the door. It's the teen that you should be concerned about when you're selecting materials. So as I've mentioned, the mantra should be the right book at the right time for the right reader. It's also important to share your experiences in reading with your teens. Years ago, my 6th grade students introduced me to the Warrior series by Aaron Hunter. It wasn't a book series I would have automatically selected for myself, but the students appreciated that I honored their suggestions and gave these books a chance. When you read young adult fiction and evaluate it, you should try to think of it in terms of other fiction that you've read, whether it's adult fiction or any fiction that you've read in terms of younger children. The characteristics should be the same for any quality fiction. A believable plot, the characters are realistic and convincing, the setting adds or enhances the plot, and the importance of style, the way the author uses the language, whether it's dialect or other things. You should keep in mind the literary devices that are listed on the screen. Just think of it in terms of these different characteristics. Is it quality work that you're reading when you read a young adult fiction title? Voya is a very popular magazine for librarians who work with young adults, whether in public or school libraries, and they created their own evaluation code for reading young adult titles. On the left of your screen, you'll see the quality code, and on the right, the popularity. So this is one way when they do their book reviews, they'll list a 5P or a 1Q as part of the rating. That says when they are reviewing the books, they are paying attention to what the teen's reaction to it would be. So this is just one evaluation code. Take a minute to look over those and think about these codes when you read the books for this class. On your screen, you'll see some professional selection tools. These are what I've used in my career as a librarian, and I consider these the go-to tools for establishing core collections. H.W. Wilson is a publisher who does the middle and junior high core collections and senior high core collections. These are available in hardcover for your libraries, or you can purchase them online and share them. For example, within a school district, all the librarians could access it, or in a public library system, everyone in the branches could access it. I would say that's a popular way to access the sources. Libraries Unlimited on the lower part of your screen has some books that come out every few years that are considered the best books in the categories that are mentioned. These will all be available to you as students through the Thomas Cooper Library databases, and you'll be getting hands-on with the Wilson tools in your first assignment for this course. One thing to consider when you are using any selection tools is whether or not the titles provide diverse viewpoints. So be sure that you're including that in your decisions. There's also a database you'll be using in your first assignment, the Review Sources Worksheet. I won't tell you too much about it because you'll be getting hands-on with it, but it is a comprehensive database of over 900,000 records, and the categories are what make this such a strong tool for collection development. You can see on the screen all the different ways that you can learn about the records. So I hope you enjoy getting to learn about the CLCD. There are other educational fields that have journals that would be of interest to you since they contain reviews of young adult materials. 2 are by National Council of Teachers of English, the Allen Review, and Voices from the Middle. The International Literacy Association has a journal called the Journal of Adolescent and Adult Literature. The ILA used to be called the International Reading Association. All of these would be good sources for you in reading reviews about young adult reading materials. These 3 websites also contain some great information. These aren't journals as such, but they are different blogs and websites that address young adult materials. It's really helpful to be on the listserv of a national association. I'm on the Young Adult Library Services Association, that's YALSA listserv, and you'll be learning quite a bit about YALSA in this class. Also SCASL, the South Carolina Association of School Librarians. For anyone from Maine or Virginia, those are your associations listed there. These associations constantly have posts from librarians asking, hey, do you know a graphic novel title that deals with the Civil War for some school students? And people from all over the nation will respond to that. Listservs are excellent tools for you to get ideas for developing your collections. Blogs are becoming a more and more popular resource for learning about young adult materials, and these are some of the top ones in the field. Some of them are part of School Library Journal, and others are YALSA sites, and then others are just librarians who do this on their own. Guys Litwire is unique to materials for males. Please take the time to explore these, and I think you'll find that they do provide great information. Some of you may be members of social networking book sites, and this is a list of just a few of them. I'm sure there are more out there, but these are the ones I'm most familiar with. Goodreads is probably the most popular one. Shofari used to be listed here, but they were purchased by Goodreads. If you are familiar with another social networking book site, please let me know or post it on that shared discussion board in class. If you have been on these sites, you'll be aware that you can search under any topic imaginable and then find book reviews from people all over the world. And this is your chance to learn more about maybe a certain genre or a certain author. Of course, you have to realize that some people have agendas or certain beliefs that you'll have to take into consideration when you examine these particular reviews. Overall, however, when you get hundreds of hits on the book, you can get a feel for whether or not it's a title you might want in your collections. Each January at the American Library Association Midwinter Meeting, the Youth Media Awards are announced. On that morning, the winners for all the big awards are announced, including Caldecott and Newbery for Children's Lit, and the Prince for YA, including a host of other awards. It's a really fun event, and if you ever have the opportunity to attend, you should. But if you don't, it's usually live streamed, and you can actually access that through Twitter. Young Adult Library Services Association, YALSA, provides a wealth of lists for you to use in collection development or in reader's advisory. These are some of the lists on the screen. There are committees that vote on these lists, the winning titles, and the honor books. They are composed of librarians from around the nation. It can be practicing school or public librarians. It can be professors like myself or Dr. Gavigan. Sometimes they may have people from other organizations like the CBC Children's Book Council. You'll be reading books from some of these lists throughout the course. Just a heads up, you can read the winning titles or the honor books. Some of them, like Great Graphic Novels for Teens and the Best Fiction for Youth, will have their nominated titles listed for each year. You can also read the nominations as part of your required reading. There are additional lists depending on the population you serve. You can see the range from outstanding books for the college-bound to quick picks for reluctant readers. Teens Top 10 is YALSA. They have reached out to teens across the nation, and they, the teens themselves, vote on their top 10 books in a given year. And then the Morris Award is awarded to an author who is the debut author. In other words, it's his or her first young adult title. So that's another interesting category for you to explore. There are also state association awards. For example, SCASL, South Carolina Association of School Librarians, has 2 categories. One is the junior book category, which would be more middle school, and then the Young Adult Book Award, which would be a high school level book. And then I mentioned the Teens Top 10 by YALSA. Well, the International Literacy Association has their young adult population create a Young Adult's Choice reading list each year, which is always an interesting list to see what teens themselves are voting for. You're also required to listen to an audiobook as part of this course. You can listen to more than one if you want to, but you're required to listen to the one from these 2 lists. You can read the award winners or the honor books. Just make sure when you use these lists from the Odyssey Award, for example, that you use a review of a young adult title. I hope you enjoyed the experience of listening to an audiobook for young adults. You're aware that you're required to read a realistic fiction title by next module, next week. And so I'm going to briefly describe the 6 ones that are on your list. Some of you may have already completed that assignment, but I hope you'll listen to the description of these titles because it could be that you are interested in one, and maybe you can apply it to another category in your list. For example, some of these are audiobooks on the award list, and you could read more than one on these lists if it fits another category for you. You'll be learning a lot about Jacqueline Woodson in this class. She's a very prolific young adult author, very popular with teens. Beneath a Meth Moon, an Elegy, is a great example of realistic fiction. The character in the story is a young girl whose mother and grandmother are tragically killed in Hurricane Katrina, so her father moves the family to another city. She's in high school and gets involved with a hot star basketball player who has her experiment with crystal meth, and she becomes addicted. This is the story of her struggles in trying to get over that addiction. She meets another interesting character who paints walls and murals. The novel explores the interesting dynamics of her life and how she works through some terrible issues. When Woodson describes the book on YouTube, it's an interesting description of sort of why and how she wrote it. As Kirkus says, it's a very realistic and sort of emotional story about teenage addiction with drugs. For those of you who like romantic fiction, this is an example of realistic fiction with romance called Eleanor and Park. This was a big award winner a couple years ago and is still very popular with teens. Rainbow Rowell wrote this title, and she based it in 1986 over the course of an entire school year. From the cover, you can see the two characters. They end up meeting on the school bus when they have to sit next to each other because they're not part of the cool crowd, and they're just sort of social misfits. They come to find each other and love each other very much. And I won't tell you more than that, but if you like romantic realistic fiction, this would be a great title for you to read. Exit Pursued by a Bear is one of the newest titles on this list. I chose it to replace Speak by Laurie Halsey Anderson. They're similar in that they're both about rape, but this one has an entirely different tone. The author, E.K. Johnston, was a Morris Award finalist for her first book. The Morris Award is given to debut titles. This book is getting rave reviews, and I look forward to reading your reactions. This is the most recent addition to the required reading list. From the first line of Mindy McGinnis's latest novel, Female of the Species, you know you've been hooked into something you can't easily let go of. This is How I Kill Someone. McGinnis is dealing with some trigger topics here: sexual assault, rape culture, violence, animal cruelty. But McGinnis handles these issues like a master painter with a palette of paint. There are no clumsy unnecessary strokes, no harsh lines without meaning. The parts of McGinnis's novel that are difficult to read are there for a reason. The pain is necessary. The characters are developed, the story is compelling, the writing is rich. If you're interested in reading this title, be sure to check out McGinnis's website in the official book trailer. 13 Reasons Why is considered another classic in the field. It's been all over the news lately with Netflix's adaptation of the novel into a series. It is a very unique book on the topic of teen suicide. The main character is Clay Jensen, and he has always had a crush that he never revealed to Hannah Baker, who committed suicide a couple of weeks earlier. Clay is devastated by the suicide, but he comes home and finds a box of cassette tapes on his steps, and he opens it. Hannah explains that there are 13 reasons why she committed suicide, and she says that Clay is one of them. There's an official website for this and an interview with Asher. On the website, you can actually listen into the opening recording chapter, an actress using Hannah's words, which is really powerful and may convince you that you want to read the book. And he, like Halsey Anderson, got a huge reaction from people all over the world on this topic. He has a blog in which he writes about it. This again is considered one of the real classics in the field on a topic that is very important in the world of teen fiction.